but I will be participating remotely.
All right. Hey, Dan, can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Awesome.
Is that all right? I pushed the button, but it didn't come on.
Well, I hadn't turned it on yet, but that's.
Oh, okay. I can use them.
I'd rather. you
Yeah,
use it.
we're not
Right.
ready to get started yet. We only have a couple of people in the room, Dan, so if you got something you're working on just for the next few minutes, just go ahead.
Absolutely.
Dan, can you hear me? Jimmy.
Yes, sir, I can hear you, Jimmy.
Great, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Don. How you doing? Good, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. I like that shirt. That's a nice color.
Army green.
It's really nice. Good looking.
Light turnout today.
Yeah, real light. We think Susan's coming in. Dan's online. Yeah, I don't think we'll be, I think this is going to be an hour at the most.
I think Roy is supposed to be.
Roy's supposed to be coming on too.
They're driving back from Florida, so he may have
Yeah,
connectivity issues
yeah.
a long way.
Did you hear the story on the woman he said?
I mean, she's a race car driver or something, I don't know.
Like the number one in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
What's her name though?
Oh, shoot. Good morning, honey.
He calls her Lynn.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never heard of her. I mean, does she drive Formula One or what does she drive?
If you go on YouTube, you'll see a lot of her. You'll see some of her crashes.
Hi, Paul. I'm good. I
Makes
sent
you
you
wonder
the
how,
notes, but I
how he
sent
got hooked up with her.
just finished them this morning, so I brought copies if we need them. From our committee report out.
Okay.
Hey, Glenn, how are you? I'm good.
Hi, honey.
Sweet pie, how you doing? I'm good.
Who do we have online now?
Lynn St. James.
Oh, okay.
You know her?
Yeah. Wow.
She's a big deal.
She is a big deal. So far, just Dan Russell.
Just Dan? Never heard anything from Julian.
He, he's still recovering in Florida from that
Yeah.
back surgery, so I don't know what is. He said that it's, I talked to him last week, he said that the surgeon said it was going well, but he didn't want him to do anything. He didn't want any rehab, he can't bend over and pick anything up off the floor. He said he's not making beds, he's just basically just staying still, waiting for this thing to mend up.
Yeah, one communication with me, he said that since he was fairly Hello, Dan?
Apparently not.
I think he was muted. I think he's okay now.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Are you there?
Hey, Dan, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, buddy. All right. We thought Roy was coming online, and we haven't seen Roy or we know Bill is not going to be
30
here.
seconds late.
Julian, I thought was going to be online, but I don't think he is yet. So I'm not going to hold everybody else up. And we're just going to get ahead and get started. So first of all, welcome, and thank you guys for being here. We have made a lot of progress over the winter, I believe. There's been several focus groups that have met. The Communications Committee has done a tremendous amount of work. I saw that Jimmy with the Housing Committee's been working. The focus groups have been centered about employment and jobs and job creation. Our Communications Committee has gotten a rough draft together of an assistant county administrator position to Don that he is going to be reviewing, and as soon as he gets through this budget cycle, I think he's going to be focusing a little bit more on that. The initial part of the budget, right.
Your unapproved budget.
Exactly, yes.
Remind me when we finish, I need to talk to you because I'm presenting for the food bank, and I think they gave me a wrong time and date. So I need to confirm that with you.
I'm up first at 5 o'clock, just letting you know. I'll be camping here,
Really?
so I can be first. I'm just letting you know. You see a little tent out front?
Hey, first, it's how they responded back to me, so I can't remember where you were.
Okay. So one of the things I'd like to talk about first is a communication that I got from Gary Silverman. Because Gary had heard through one of the focus group members that we were saying that there would be fiber for all through the county. And what Gary said was that is an incorrect statement, that there would be up this way, where All Points Broadband is, they're stringing fiber. But where we have Breeze Line, that they're just doing standard coax. And his concern was that the business, the county business growth area, the triangle, the three towns, was designated growth. And if we were trying to solicit, like in your park, something high-speed fiber,
Right.
it wouldn't be available, and not in this phase. So we felt like saying that fiber for all was not a true statement. He said broadband for all would be, because he said a high-tech company is not going to take 30-year-old technology in the designated growth area. So it seems like we've got a reversal of what we actually need. We need the fiber down there, and we got fiber up here.
Right.
Dan,
Yeah.
where is the school getting their fiber from in Kilmarnock?
I'm sorry?
Where is the school getting their fiber from in Kilmarnock?
It's fiber that's been run specifically for the school division.
Is it connecting to Verizon lines or?
It depends on the provider that goes out for bid.
Okay, yeah.
We were with Verizon. I think we have a different provider now. I'd have to ask Kevin more specific
There's not-
details.
I'm just,
But it comes off, it comes right down past Hill's quarters.
Right.
because there is fiber there, it's just a
That's
matter
right.
of-
I think right now we're with Atlantic Broadband.
Right.
That's right.
Okay,
So,
okay.
so Paul, it's my understanding, and Dan, correct me if you know something I don't, that there are two fiber lines on Route 200 in front of Hills Quarter that run right by the new schools, in front of the school board office. And it's been my understanding that if someone wanted to hook into that fiber, that's available.
But you'd have to opt in, though.
right.
Because it's not open to all,
Right.
was
and-
my
and-
understanding.
and-
You
Yeah,
could
and,
opt into it.
Right.
and
but-
so what he went further on to say is that the hospital and Compass are both on a Verizon fiber line.
That's right.
That was negotiated. But he said it's not part of the county plan.
Right.
And he said if we wanted to do anything because of the business parks down there, that we would need to do it ourselves.
Right.
So he sent me an email, and his recommendation is, and let's see, who did he send this email to? He sent it to Craig Geezy, George Bott, Kevin Bean, Pasquaretti, and that's it. But what he says, and Jimmy Carter, he says, I would recommend to negotiate with these four entities, Breezeline, APB, Verizon, and Segra for at least one GB circuit at 0.5 MB before trying to get commitments and also understand how many GB of dedicated circuits they could supply. I would also recommend including Kevin Bean. Successfully negotiated downward the school contract, and our schools are in the top 10 nationally for internet performance. And Nicholas Pasquaretti, who has already done this in New York and Eastern Shore from both sides in these discussions, as they could add a lot. And then he said, here's the link for an abbreviated version of the website. So what he's basically saying is, if we're going to represent fiber, we can't represent fiber for all.
That's right.
But if we have business entities that are coming into that zone, we can, there's fiber available, but we don't, he's saying we need to figure out what the capabilities of that fiber are,
Right.
okay?
But Paul, in the larger issue that this part of the location was outside the scope of the broadband authority.
It is.
Correct, I mean, I'm right? It's outside the scope, so that would mean a separate initiative or a duplicate initiative if we needed to expand it in the triangle area?
Yeah, I think the issue is the broadband authority was tasked with bringing broadband to everyone in the county who didn't already have
To
it,
the underserved?
to the unserved. And the APB and Dominion project takes care of all of the unserved homes in the county. And it just so happens that, you
That's
know,
at the north end.
yeah, that's up at this end, and it's that's gonna be fiber to the home. But the currently served locations that already have breeze line or whatever, you know, you're gonna be relying on those companies to upgrade their technology as time moves on, without doing a separate initiative. And I think, you know, Paul and I have talked too, that the coax cable that BreezeLine currently has in most locations is fine for at-home high speed and to bring your own job acronym that Jimmy talks about. But when, you know, and it really didn't dawn on me until Paul told me, he said, well, you know, that may be fine for 4 or 5 connections at home, but it's not going to be fine for 20 or 30 or 40 in a business type setting. And I, you know, that never dawned on me until you said that. And so what Gary is saying is right. That's right.
So I'm leaping to the answer, and I apologize for that, but should we consider having a 7th initiative, which is this expanded fiber in the triangle that's business targeted?
Well, that's what Gary is proposing, and he thinks that our committee should be the one to get into it because it's not within the scope of the broadband authority right now.
Well, there's also some indication too, because we got all those mailers from Dominion, even though we're in ABB territory, that they're expanding fiber. So
Well,
Not to interrupt, but those online can't hear Jason.
You got to pull the microphone a little closer, Jason.
I was saying, like, a lot of us got mailers, even though we live in the served areas already by BreezeLine, that Dominion's gonna be putting fiber out in those areas as well. So I think maybe that the fiber expansion may be greater than what is being led on at this point by Dominion.
so I guess we need to get a resolution as to what our role would be.
Right.
Initially, I said, we were saying fiber to every household. We just say now broadband to every household.
Right.
And that maybe we need, you know, what Gary's saying is that if we're soliciting high-tech businesses, we need to know what the capabilities are in the triangle area.
Right.
And where the capabilities are. So that's the second question.
Right.
So from a marketing standpoint, we just say broadband for all as opposed to fiber. But someone's got to take up the initiative to figure out what we've got down there and what the capabilities are.
Right.
Could this not be put on the broadband?
That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, who knows better
Then
in
them.
the community?
And they
Yeah.
have the
I
expertise to
don't feel
negotiate
comfortable
such
doing it,
contracts
that's
to
for
where
sure.
it
Right.
needs to be
I don't,
done.
no,
So I don't know if this is meaningful, but I have had various conversations with Atlantic Broadband about whatever this was back when they were Atlantic Broadband, about if there were a business to come into the growth zone on my property, you know, how could we service them? And they said, Jimmy, we can provide unlimited fiber speed. They basically said the pipe is there. They said the only thing that dictates the speed is what's on it, the fittings on each end of the pipe. But they said we can give you relatively high speed on the fiber that's there, and if somebody really needed giant speed, we could tweak it to get them really big speed. The other thing that's right there is that communication tower that's over there next to Compass. There's a tower there, and that's a primary hub location. But I think you're right. I think if the Broadband Authority was asked to look at the growth zone and try to figure out what is the current accessibility, what is the state of the art that someone might want, how is it done, how are we going to serve schools, you know, go ahead and address those issues. I think that's a really good, very something structurally we need to know for sure.
And I think,
And I think Dan and I'd be happy to sit in with the Broadband Authority to make sure that it's addressing the questions of our concern.
Well, I think the question I have, like coming from this group, we need broadband in order for business, and I agree with Jimmy. I think there's actually two sources right at his front door. But would it not be, coming from this committee, would it not be a recommendation for the supervisors to form another joint committee? Instead of us making, maybe our recommendation from this committee is there needs to be a joint committee of business leaders plus the broadband authority, so we will know.
Right.
Just a thought.
And schools, right.
But do we
Well,
need another
I
committee?
consider
mean, we
myself a
already
business
have
leader.
Okay, got it.
Do we need another committee? We already have an authority. Can you just increase the scope of the
I
authority?
mean, I think that makes the most sense to me, because they've almost accomplished their initial authority and goals, so
Right.
what are they doing?
Right.
So, I mean, this could be something that could be on their task too, to start
Yeah. I
think that's a
investigating
great
and looking
idea.
at, and if need be any
Yeah.
agreements or contracts to get that fiber to, say, a particular.
yeah, because we need to be ahead of it, not waiting for the business person to come in and say, what do you have? And we're like, well, you can go talk to Breezeline, and they can deliver it, and I think it has to be more seamless.
Yeah, like,
We're gonna have to be more proactive about what we've got and what's absolutely available.
exactly.
So Paul, I'd make a motion that this committee make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that they expand the mission of the Broadband Authority to look at providing fiber for businesses or other high-need users within the growth triangle, to explore what's currently available and what, you know, what could become available to meet the needs of future, you know, users.
Okay. All right. Jimmy, with all that, my pen ran out of ink.
Okay.
Okay. So you heard what the motion is, and that's,
I'll second that.
all right. Let's see here.
I'll write it, I can send it to you.
All right.
But we can agree in concept, and I'll get the writing.
That's
to
the
you.
concept. Jimmy's going to get the motion. It's been first. We have a first and a second. Any discussion at this point? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, so we're going to see if we can get the Broadband Authority to help us out with defining what we have. We're not asking them to really negotiate contracts or anything, but just to determine what the capabilities
Yeah.
are.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think we should take negotiating some
No.
service agreements off the
Right,
table, off
that's
the
right.
scope.
Well, but at this point in time,
Yeah, we don't need that now, but
right.
I don't want to have another conversation in 6 weeks to say, well, that wasn't within my scope. Then we're going to go back to the Board of Supervisors and say, can you please then task this group with negotiation? You know, it would save some time, I think.
Okay, next topic, and then I'm going to open it up to the different strategies. We've had 2 focus group meetings, and we've got 2 more that are in the process of being scheduled. Lisa McLaughlin is helping us out in organizing and setting up those meetings. The first meeting that we had, we were speaking to residents of the county that have been here 2 years or less. The second meeting we had are residents of the county that have been here 15 years or less. We have still yet to talk to Dan to get a different demographic, because the demographic that we got was fairly middle-aged. There were our target groups, the 20 to 55-year-olds, but they were more affluent. But here's a summary of what they have said. As far as the reasons why they moved here, most of them had some connection to the area. Either parents had a house, grandparents had a house, came here to the Tides Inn. There was very few that just came out of basically nowhere and said, I want to live here. They had a familial connection or some connection through the Tides. Secondly, and I'm going to show you the presentation that we're giving. But based on the presentation, we're hitting all the hot buttons, okay? The 6 strategies they have that we've talked about, they also believe in. Thirdly, they'd like to become advocates for us, and we're showing that in there. In fact, we're getting additional volunteers. When we go by the hot buttons for them, same ones. Housing, we don't have enough of it. We don't have enough middle-priced or workforce level housing. Incredible concern about the school system was the second issue. They said that when you go out on Zillow, I think when you're looking at the high school, it's got a 2 rating, and people don't go even any further than that. That one person said, now, Dan, this is all, I'm just telling you what they said. I'm not saying that I've verified or anything, because I've never been on Zillow, so I don't even know. But they said that a lot of folks, especially in this target age group, when they're looking for homes, they'll go out on Zillow. The first thing they'll look at is the school districts and see what the ratings are of the schools. And so the middle school or elementary school have about 5 or 6 ratings on a 10 scale out there from what they said. I didn't verify it, so you may want to verify it, Dan. When I talked with them and showed them the materials that you had about early college and some of the highest percentage of enrollments in the state into the early college and the dual enrollment with that and the governor's school, they were pretty shocked. And we need to be doing more of that. And they wanted to know more specifics. How many kids out of the population in high school are in dual enrollment? You know, how does that compare with a county like Fairfax or Alexandria? That's the type of thing that they wanted to know. They wanted to know about the new schools and that are coming and the technology that we'll have in there. They were concerned about teachers' salaries because they have heard that there's a lot of turnover in our teachers. So those were the major issues that they were concerned with. We talked about recreation. Jason, they were really validating access, very much validating access in the lower county. They were also validating what I've been talking about, that they would like a place that if they have an access point that we can go and they could rent a paddleboard or a kayak or a boat. So the idea of trying to have a public-private partnership where we actually, you know, we may pave the water into the waterway, but what about the idea of building some sort of shack there that we can then rent to somebody to put his own business in on renting kayaks, canoes, and that kind of thing?
That would be, that'd be something right up, I think, the EDA's alley to just kind of tune that up. You know, a new business
Yeah.
launch.
They were thrilled about the Tri-Way Trail. They wanted to know, when is it coming? How soon is it going to get here? How could they help? The arts part of it, people were talking about arts and culture. Some of the newer residents, they never knew what it was like prior to the pandemic, you know, with the Lancaster Players and some of the other things that were going on in the community theater. And so we explained some of that to them. But there was quite a bit of interest in a skateboard park for kids.
Right.
Just about all the children, skateboard park. When can you get a skateboard park? Now, the BMX trail was not as hot an item, but Little League football was an
So
issue.
what's the difference between the BMX and the skateboard park?
BMX is
BMX is a bike.
bikes.
Okay, I got it.
Off-road
I'm sorry.
bikes.
It's just, I'm showing my age. Right. I'm thinking they're all sort of related, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All of them came to the community and they said, we were at a loss as how to find things out. Is there a central place in the community where we can find out where broadband is, where it's not, what the zoning laws are, what activities are in the community? So that got us thinking when we were looking at creating the job description for the assistant county administrator to have more marketing focused. And so taking an inventory of all the county resources that are available, including the properties and any county properties that wanted to be sold. But also being that intermediary. You know, I think the job description we created has a lot to do with communications to Richmond, but also communications and creating this central repository, being online, having a dynamic website, having a focus on, what do they call that, public media?
Social media?
Social media. Yeah, I couldn't think of the word. But those kind of things. They all were concerned about the lack of tradesmen in the community. We need to get a plumber, electrician, a carpenter. Really, really a big concern. Because everyone comes in, they're buying a house that may be 25, 30 years old, or they want in and they want to take that newer house to the way they want it. And they're saying, you know, they're getting estimates and it's taken them 8, 10, 12 months to just say we can get to you then.
Yep.
If we can. Or who do you call if you have a plumbing problem overnight? You know, that kind of thing. So one of the things that we had in this area on creating a business-friendly environment was how can we partner within the community with existing trades that maybe we can team up with the community college for classroom and requisite skills, and then we have a mentoring program that goes out to like the Connemara or another contractor, with the idea that when they get their requisite training, they can go to work for that company. But that's going to take, you know, to me, that's going to take another subcommittee to work on, right, if we want to do something like that. And another comment on that from Lisa and a couple of others is that if you live in Fairfax County or Alexandria or up in Northern Virginia, The tradesmen are coming from outside because they can't afford the houses there. So what about the idea of trying to, with some more affordable workforce housing, of targeting some of those folks so that they can move down here and live and work in the same community and not have to deal with in terrible traffic jams every day and all that. And so their thought was maybe to do some targeting of tradesmen outside the community. I think I'm covering the major topics. I'm supposed to be talking to the Irvington Business Association here in the next week or two, also, and get some feedback from them.
Good.
Okay? But I also, the town councils, we need to be on the agenda for, and we need to be doing that.
Do you want to come in March? I'll say the date.
What date?
21.
21st? I should be able to do that. Okay. So Dan, the stuff on the school system, one of the comments they had was that Zillow rates based on feedback they get into the system. And if we have people that are extremely pleased with the school system, like my partner Welby Saunders with 3 kids, that are that are really doing well in the system, to have them make comments back, posts, and so it may be a good idea if you can look into that as opposed to just some of the other things that we talked about. Has that been discussed or mentioned?
Yeah, it's been discussed several times before. The problem is one bad comment on there, because there are very few. That's why you see some of the ratings. And I'll just be quite frank, I have never been one to try to solicit to drive up inflated numbers. But it's also something we've discussed repetitively. The only way we're going to fix that is to solicit some people to go on there and provide positive comments. Or actual true comments. I mean, do we want everybody to say it's a 10 out of 10? Probably not, but well, I think what you also find is the older kids get, the more disconnected the parents are with what's going on. I think Jason can probably attest to that. So you're seeing the high school lower because by then the parents rarely know what's going on with the high school kids. But and as far as advertising and knowing, I mean, Susan's made some great recommendations, but we're doing more now to sell what we're doing than previously before. And I don't know what more we can do to inform families. It's in the paper, we're mailing home quarterly newsletters, we're sending out stuff on Facebook.
Well, let's see if it makes a
At
difference.
one point, I even tried to hire somebody part-time to just sit and write articles and send out, so.
Yeah.
Each member of this committee should go home and get on Zillow and look it up and then make a positive comment about the school system.
Yeah. Yeah.
And see how the rating impacts. see what
Yeah.
happens.
And Digger.com is on there, and to be quite transparent with the group, my kids have done well here, and I haven't gone on there and written a positive comment, but I think it asks you for your email and your name, and probably the last thing I want to be associated with as a superintendent is boosting the scores of the school division
17 comments from Dan Russell.
on an app like that.
Yeah.
Digger.com does the same thing.
Yeah.
But we're well aware of that.
So we got to figure out how to get some very pleased parents with the education their children's getting to comment. That's the deal. We got to figure out how to do it. And and there are some pleased. In fact, I'll talk to Welby. I'm having lunch with him today. I'll talk with him today about that.
I'll get to work on that immediately. Actually, what we're doing now is shoring up parent advisory committees for each school. And then I'm going to have one as well. So I'm going to ask them to bring that up in the topic and ask them to share with their friends to go on there and do that, if they will, and make it a true assessment.
Yeah.
If you're not overly happy, it's an 8 out of 10. There are things we can improve. Put that on there as well. So.
Yeah. And how about some of the statistics in your marketing pieces That was one thing. Because one of the things that I gave to all the focus group members was the last flyer that you created. And although they may have seen it, they hadn't paid attention to it. They said, this is the first one of these I've seen. Well, it's supposed to be, I'm saying, well, it's supposed to be going out to every household. So we've got some work. I don't know what's happening with the circulation, or they're not paying attention, or they don't care. It gets thrown out with the junk mail. But I can tell that when we're talking in public about it in this, like these meetings that I have, we're making an impact. And that means, it just tells me that we need to be out in front of more groups a lot of the time, because it's definitely having an impact.
And we have to remember that most of our population does not have a child in the system currently.
Right.
So they're totally disconnected
Yeah.
from what's going on.
All right.
Got a question. Hey, Dan, is there a place where if I was moving to the county and I wanted to learn more about schools and try to find out what the facts were, in terms of the Zillow rating and those types of things, is there a place where the school system is putting out information, what the plans are for new schools, what the current situation is, the advanced programs we're doing with the community college, all those types of things? Is there a place that someone can go and get all that information at one location?
I wouldn't speak on Zillow, only because there are like several. You go on Realtor.com, and I think they have a different one of those groups.
Right.
So I don't think, as far as the real estate rating, we don't address that. But everything else is actually addressed, including electronic versions of our flyers are on our website. We even send the electronic versions of those to the chamber, so they'll have those. They're able to print those out and share those with.
Right. And do you think the information is in a format that would make it easy for somebody, if they were looking into new schools, sort of a question and answer? I'm thinking somebody would say, could go to that information, and it would be concise, and they wouldn't have to look around to get the answers they want.
Yes and no. I mean, part of it, Jimmy, is, and this is the real thing we're dealing with, it's easily findable, but it does take some time.
Yeah.
And we're now dealing with a society that wants everything at their fingertips.
Right.
So if you're suggesting we do that, I don't have an issue with that. Part of what I have to be careful with, even as we have these conversations, and Jason can appreciate this, while we're all talking new schools, nothing's been approved.
Right.
So I can't advertise that we're doing that. Just our hopes and plans are to ask for that.
Yeah.
But we're certainly using that language with everyone. Point taken, I can certainly go back and do that. I think Susan has made some great suggestions too about what we can do to improve, which are videos to put out, things of that nature. I think what Susan said earlier is the biggest point. The first thing people do when they come in is meet realtors or meet people in the community who don't necessarily have kids in our system, and their thoughts are negative. So the first thing people hear is negative.
That's right.
And if you're looking for a home on Zillow, you see that. So
That's right.
addressing each one of those, I think, will help.
Yeah. I think if there was one central site that could be on the county to say, if you want to know, to refer to it, or the realtors could refer to it and say, here's where you go to get an overview of the schools. It's
That
just a
would,
suggestion.
that would mean creating a whole new website, I believe. 'cause-
Or a subsection of existing site. I mean, I'm just
or,
trying,
or a different link.
yeah.
Dan,
Well,
it may
I
be
see
some,
Susan shaking her head, but the reality is, with the requirements of everything we have to advertise on our website,
Yeah.
that needs to be readily available, it's gonna, I can try to put another tab in, we can try to do those things, I'm not saying we wouldn't, but,
Yeah,
But I think-
I'm just trying to figure out how we overcome some of this. If you move into the area where we could send people to say, here's where you need to go to really find out what Lancaster schools are all about.
well, I think what we can do is create a link to give to, like, all the business partners
Yeah,
that could go on the bottom of their website. I don't know if you've seen ours, but we actually have all the towns and we have the chamber, and so we could try to develop something here that if they clicked on one of the realtor sites, if the realtors would do it, it would take them to the things you're talking about.
Right.
So we could create that link on our website and also on our, but I still think, while it may not have to be separate, it's gonna have to be housed somewhere where it's simplified, because
Right.
Right.
I feel like we have a ton of information on there, but just like the flyers, some people aren't even taking the time to read them. We do have,
I think for somebody, if they're moving here, they want just an overview sort of
Yeah.
situation.
So, I think part of our thinking too was this,
well, we're creating postcards that highlight programs at each school that will be mailed out to.
Great.
Uh,
No, I really
taking-
commend what you're doing, and I'm just trying to figure out how we get it user-friendly for new people.
Right.
No, I appreciate the input.
Yeah.
Susan's been extremely helpful. Part of what we're running into, maybe what Don is running into, is we're a school division with limited resources, and we are just pounding people with everything. Plus, we're in the middle of 2 construction projects. So
Right.
while I'm not making excuses, we're pushing everything forward as fast as we can, but also trying to improve what, I think Susan's done a great job with the town. So what I'm trying to do is emulate that with the school system as best I can, which is,
No, Dan,
Selling
and
our-
don't
our
take
high
it,
point.
don't take this in any way being negative. I'm just trying to figure out how we create a one-stop shop where someone can get information. I really appreciate everything you're doing. I'm a great advocate of yours.
oh, no, and I didn't take it the wrong way, Jimmy. I appreciate the input. That's how we learn and grow
And Dan, just to take this a little more broader than just the schools, because what we talked about with broadband, and I'm gonna just suggest this, coming out of our bigger group, we have a need for a whole series of what I call one-pagers. We need a one-pager on the schools that talks it up, we need a one-pager on broadband, we need a one-pager on housing, that can be public-facing, new consumer-oriented.
yes.
And we need
yeah.
that as an outcome, and that might need to be a more concerted effort as opposed to, I'm gonna use the word burden, Dan, but adding one more thing to Dan's plate or one more to broadband.
Right.
Maybe we need, I don't wanna say a PR firm, but we need something that kind of sits in the middle and says, hey, we need to talk about these things, and somebody that can pull that together.
Okay, so the realtors that were in these focus groups were begging for that.
Correct.
You got a paper
Correct.
on broadband. I said, well, you can
Yeah.
can go to the site, the county website. So,
They want a stuffer to go in an
yeah.
envelope when somebody walks in the
Yeah.
door, they can put a leave behind
Right.
piece right in their hand.
So part of the vision that I have, if we get this hub of the county going with the economic development officer that's mainly marketing, is that we have a repository of everything going on in the
Right.
county
Right.
there, because they said they would like to go to one place to get all the information. And I think we can do that as we create that position for Don. And I think we have outlined in those job descriptions to try to do that. Of course, the materials would have to come from the broadband authority or the school
Right.
system.
That's right.
Or whatever.
Right.
But we could be that central repository for it. There's one thing I'd like on behalf of this business-friendly environment. Will you guys consider us establishing another subgroup that we've talked about to investigate and look into this this tech job dilemma that we have? And like the mentoring program and trying to see what we can coordinate with the community college. So I think I'm sort of maxed out. I don't have the time to be doing that. Is it something that we could all agree that we want to investigate? Can we do that?
Yeah, I think we need to investigate it. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, don't we have I'm trying to remember the 6 groups we have right now. Don't we
Yeah,
have
well,
a-
no, it's under the jobs group, and I'm the chair of the jobs
Right.
group.
Can
The
you
business friendly.
just establish a subcommittee under your arm and get a
Yeah,
couple of people
that's
to
what
come
I'm
in?
saying.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be
Yeah, and I think
going
that's
into-
within your purview
Okay.
to do whatever you want to do, I think. Would you agree with that, Susan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Susan, Jason's got to leave here in about 20 minutes, so why don't we give him the communications overview, because that's been a really active
Sure,
committee.
sure. I got 2 things. Beginning of show and tell, and this is what we just worked on.
You have this one?
Thanks.
I did not have that.
All right.
In my toolkit
Oh, I
of
got it
kits.
Dan, we'll get you an electronic file of all this we're talking about now.
We'll just hold it in front of a camera, Dan. This might be a little small, but,
Thanks.
you know, that's okay.
Oops, go ahead.
Okay, just to keep us moving along, we met on the 24th, and we're trying out a couple of things process-wise. We're working on this document that basically is a summary sheet so that every committee will have a template format, and I'm talking about this white one. That basically is if you have a team meeting, we've got a document that we can scribe those notes down. We'll have a repository. We have some, and they will go somewhere. We're not quite sure where they're going to go at the moment, but effectively, when there's a meeting of the subcommittees, we've got action items, and particularly what was important was not only what happened within the subcommittee, but then things that need to be communicated to other teams, so that we've got this whole cross-pollination sharing going on. In our committee, we already talked about item 1, which was the broadband access issue. We talked about that this morning. Second item was drafting a message that would come from the Board of Supervisors that is, it could be a mailing piece, it could be some other
Yeah,
format.
We got that.
And we have that. That's
I gave you.
talking points for
No, that's with
long-range
the
planning?
that's the talking points, but we also have exciting news.
Yeah, we have exciting news. So part
you
of what we've talked about is, thank you, making sure that as we roll this out, that the initial rollout comes with this very high-level endorsement, so that it's clear that this is a strategic direction for the county, and there is a signed by the Board of Supervisors letter that would kind of lay out the work, et cetera, and talk about what's coming next. And so that's what the exciting news aspect is, and you can read that at your leisure. Joanna did an amazing job of crafting that with some feedback, and she's worked it through, and I think it's designed for that quick hit, 30-second read, hopefully doesn't hit the trash can kind of approach. And then as part of the first rollout, but that we believe that there will be multiple rollouts of more information as we go. Again, these kind of one-pager, talking point, FYI, someplace for the community to rally around, is this colored draft, which is designed to be a template. It's designed to have a masthead and a logo and something that when we all see it, we'll agree to it. I don't know whether it's going to look like 2035 or not. But we're going to work on that. But it's designed to say, hey, this is what's going on. Here's our 6 committees, and here's the activity that's going on. And that we can showcase, other things at the bottom. We can showcase in some white space if we have some call to action, whatever that is. Mike Antonio has raised his hand to be the graphics person. This is just my thoughts on paper. It's certainly not sexy enough to go out, but Mike will make it look amazingly cool and professional and all that great stuff. And the intent is that probably the first version of this will be the letter from the Board of Supervisors. Here's the rollout, Volume 1, Issue 1. Here's what we've been working on. Here's where we want to go. And then followed up with some frequency with here's Volume 1, Version 2, second quarter response, or what, maybe we want to roll out something very specific about the schools. Hey, go find that. We'll kind of work that through. But all of this kind of is targeted around that kind of one-pager environment where this group is putting out a particular frequency of communication on all the things that we're doing.
Can I just comment for a
Yeah,
moment?
please. 'Cause I'm done.
Jason, you're hearing this for the first time. Would this be something that you think as a supervisor you would like to send out to all our citizens?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think in my initial, when we did the strategic planning, there was something titled like the address from the supervisor or the chairman's address, or the state of the county address kind of every year that would be coming from the chairman of the Board of Supervisors. So that, I agree with that, and that was kind of in my thinking when we were doing that initial strategic planning back in 2015 when we started this process.
Yeah, well, I think it also gives us more credibility as we go in front of different groups too. Yeah, and so, I.
Because I think a big part is
yeah,
that
now
people are disconnected from their local government in a lot of ways, and they don't really understand what it does or what roles it plays, and in a lot of ways, we need to be the bridge of communication between what goes on and what our roles are and the public in general.
So would it be appropriate as a venue for requesting this if we came to the next supervisor meeting in the public comment section and asked about this?
I think so.
Okay. Now, the other thing I would like to do is the presentation that is up on the board. I'm going to show you that. And I know Susan's got to finish her report, but what this presentation does is just very high level, but I have hidden basically all the detail slides. And what I have found is when we hit a hot button on the high level presentation, I'm able just to go and dig out the slide to give the detail to the group. And it's worked beautifully. So this, first you get, and the high level pretty much mirrors the high level that you have here. The other piece that we talked about was an elevator speech, the talking points. And that's, and Joanna Carrington did all that talking point piece too, that you have in front of you. Just to let people know if they hear anything about it, here's the salient points that we want to touch with them. So go ahead, Susan, I'm sorry to
Oh,
interrupt.
no, it's fun. Our intention, coming out of this is really to craft a document that would go out with some degree of frequency, and I think it just fits this kind of strategy of the one-pagers, if you will. It just gets stuff in front of people quickly. This is something realtors can have on hand. It can be in the governmental offices. It can be, all kinds of places. But it's that down and dirty, easy to digest, no more than 6 takeaways, because we can't remember more than that. That's pretty known stuff. And so we get at it. In our individual committee, we've already handled the matters to be communicated for other folks. We've talked about broadband this morning, and we talked a little bit about the one-pager sell sheet for realtors that came up. But I think it's a larger issue than just schools. It's this one-pager of a variety of stuff. I'm not interested, I don't have kids, but I need to know all about broadband. Or I'm here, what's going on with housing? I'm sitting in a realtor's office.
Yeah.
I can envision a little kiosk with all this kind of printed material that could be in a realtor office to make it easy for them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I can see it too. Where are the enterprise zones in the county? And there's a lot of different stuff
lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I envision that a lot of it could happen through the assistant.
Yeah, and
position.
part of figuring out what it is that needs to be in that one-stop shop,
Yeah,
and what is already out in the community that we don't want to duplicate.
right.
Chamber does a great job with the directory that has all kinds of stuff in it. We sure don't want to be in the directory creating business,
No, but
that's already been
but we
done.
want a hot link to that directory.
but we want a hot link to that directory. That's
Right.
exactly right.
Paul, I could give just a quick 2-minute or less report on housing. All right. So the housing committee's been meeting, and I think what we're waiting on now is that the thanks to Susan's help, Doug Jackson from the Virginia Department of Housing Community Development, he's a capacity development specialist. That's what it says on his tag. He's leading the effort. We've had a group Zoom meeting with Matt Weaver, Chase with Department of Housing, Chase Sawyer with Department of Housing, Casey Ingson with Department of Housing, Doug Jackson, Chris Thompson, and the next step is that they're working out a time to come down. So what we wanted to do was get them down here, give them a tour of Lancaster County, show them what Tides Inn's doing, what schools are doing, what's going on in the Growth Triangle, what's going on at the hospital, sort of so public sector, private sector, Compass, all that sort of stuff. Give them a tour, and then sit down and have a conversation about what is it that they could do to help us with workforce housing, apartments, those types, and what are the programs that are out there based on what they've seen, what's the low-lying fruit in terms of planning and implementation that they could help us with. And so that meeting is being structured now. They're supposed to be, we're in constant communication. We're trying to work on some dates.
Okay, so who's doing this? I saw a banner up on
Right.
James B. Jones Memorial.
Right.
Lisa,
That's a guy named Lee Self. He's a developer out of Northumberland County. And so Lee's had plans to build a townhouse project there. So it sounds, I called him this week and I said, is that you or did you sell it? He said, no, that's me. He said, I'm looking at maybe opening up a first section of a townhouse project.
Okay.
Yep.
You know, do we know any of the price ranges have been approved by the county yet or anything?
Well, it's private sector. I don't think
it's
there
private
is.
sector, it's been rezoned years, this project's been on the books since '09.
Okay.
It's a long-term project. I
Is
think
it in Kilmarnock or is it
It's in
outside?
Kilmarnock.
Oh, it is in Kilmarnock,
in
okay.
Kilmarnock, yeah.
I didn't know where the Kilmarnock line was back
Right.
there.
But frankly, it's, the price point is still probably $1,300 a month, $1,200-1,300 a month. It's not,
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's not,
Because he was talking about rental units.
it is
there,
rental
yeah.
units. The first two buildings, the buildings are 6 units each, connected townhouses. First two units, 12 units will be rentals.
And he's pulled the permits for the first 12.
Yeah, has he pulled them? Okay.
Yeah, and, well, there's a banner on the property, that's the first time I'd seen it, so that's great. I mean,
Right.
you got some houses being built in your
Right.
community, this is right around the corner from it,
Right,
we're getting some
absolutely.
rental
It's great.
there. That's exciting,
Right.
yeah, yeah. And that's something that Dan could share with prospective teachers, too.
Right.
Um,
And Bay Aging did close on on Mercer Place.
Good.
And obviously, we're not changing the mission. That's still
Right.
going to be workforce housing.
Any idea about adding another units to it?
No discussion at this point. It's too early. We're just trying to digest it.
Okay. Jason, how about you on the recreation?
My committee hasn't had any other meetings. We did acquire, the county is acquiring another property we'll be adding to that list. It was mentioned by Jeff the last time to address cultural and arts as well. So in our next meeting, we'll look into and see what we can do to incorporate and strengthen those programs that already exist in the county and what relationships we can build with those.
Yeah, and maybe also the feedback on, I may want to start talking about a skateboard park and how do we get youth football back and a vibrant soccer program. Those were a couple of things coming out of the focus groups. We'll have the reports from the focus groups to you shortly. All right, let me just give a couple of minutes and just give a high level on this. So with the groups, we've rebranded ourselves Lancaster County 2035. Okay, so that's from the CBRAC thing. That's what we're talking about, and you can see this exciting piece here is Vision 2035. Maybe we ought to rebrand as Vision 2035. But this is the opening slide. And I give some background. And you can take a look at the background. I don't need to read it all to you. But with the group, I go through each one of these. All right, so you can see we're touching on why the committee was formed, the responsibilities that the committee has, the length of time we've been working on it, what we have identified as our major threat, and multiple strategies. So we cover a lot with this one background slide. It takes me probably about 5 minutes to go through it. Next slide is we identify who the committee members are. Next slide, we have taken our vision and we've at Susan's direction, we have created it, we have condensed it into bullets, so it's a little bit more digestible. And we go in with the tagline that Julian created, Lancaster County as a highly desirable place to live, work, and play, as premier in our vision. Okay, we want to be known as an economically successful rural region, and we want to be known for our heritage or arts or water and nature-based recreation, a vibrant school system focused on family values, safe and affordable living venues for all, a business-friendly environment with job creation and a community where volunteerism is abundant. We extracted, those were the key elements out of the vision statement that we adopted and the board adopted, okay? We just bulleted them. And I like the bullets actually better. All right, the next thing that we talked about the major issue. So we want to hit them with it right off the bat. And so we talk about this population change. And then I'll also talk about the fact that this is a continuation, an acceleration of the 2000 to 2010 demographic, where there was over 700 people in that age group, in the 20 to 55 age group, that declined. And so if you look at a fairly static population of about 10,800 people, and we have 1,600 less people in the 20 to 55 age group, that's telling a huge story in and of itself. And so we go in and we say, this is our initiative based on it, okay? And then we come in, here's why it matters. And this one we need to get in front of Howard Kaiser, okay? Because he's the one that's always wanting taxes and not, abated, and doesn't want schools or anything else. But he's already been impacted, and he doesn't even know it.
That's because he's living on a Dominion pension.
Okay, so we have loss of businesses and trades, employers not able to maintain convenient hours, and our restaurants are probably the perfect example of that now. I've lived up here since 1994. I have never known a Lee's restaurant that wasn't open for breakfast, right? Staffing shortages, decreased demand or inability to recruit. Our workforce, increases in the financial burden on our health and wellness system as our population ages in place. Putting additional demands on county government to provide emergency and other services. Higher taxes for the remaining population as the county decreases the number of landholders. Or even if you ride through the county, you cannot go on a road where you don't see a derelict house, something that's fallen down. Now, even if the owner is still paying taxes on that, they're probably only paying taxes on a land value because the house is gone. Now, if that house had a $200,000 property on it that was well maintained, the tax base would be higher, right? And then how many of those kind of properties have we taken back in foreclosure because of non-tax payments? So it's impacting us. And the emergency services is a big issue. The school system receiving less funding from the state government. And I always give this example, Dan. If you're in Fairfax County or Alexandria or Henrico, the state government is giving more dollars per kid than we're getting. And that's patently unfair because we're a small rural county, lower income levels, and it's unfair. But it's causing us to pay more taxes because it takes a certain amount of money to educate a kid.
We're basically helping to fund all the other school districts because we're already at the highest composite index of 0.8, so we're a donating county as far as that goes.
I'm going to add that.
The same thing was a talking point in the No Towers fight because it was about protecting the economic base that the Commonwealth has here for the greater good of the entire state, essentially, because if we damage the economy here as a donator county to the rest of the state, it hurts the rest of the state's economy.
Right. Perfect. So we got this Here Why It Matters slides, and then solutions. We need to implement long-term strategies that attract and retain younger people in the community, and this include jobs, affordable housing, dynamic school system. business-friendly environments supported by supervisors and town councils, recreational facilities and amenities that are attractive to our target age groups. Those are the 6 strategies, right? And so here they are. I now list them, okay? And we have adjusted that first one to broadband access to every household from fiber to every household. And you can see that's talking about our 6 strategies again and how you can help. And that's it. And so that's the high level.
Yeah.
And now I have like 40 backup slides. So if someone says, well, what are you doing in recreation? We can talk about the Triway Trail. We can talk about the public access points. And we go into the nitty-gritty that are in the big slide deck that we have. Right. And I've found that this works really well, especially with the focus groups that we're trying to keep to about an hour to 75 minutes. I give about a 15-minute overview so we have time to ask them the questions, but it gives them the background, and then as they're talking through it, then I can open up individual detail slides. So what do you guys think?
I like it. I think
Good.
it's good.
Okay. So we're trying to, with communications, public the side of the communications, we're trying to do several different things. One, this is a presentation for groups. We have individual, the talking points. If you see somebody on the street, the elevator speech, we got this communication we want the Board of Supervisors to send out for us. And then we also have the internal communications piece that Susan talked about, so that when you have a committee meeting, you fill out a form, let us know what's going on. Same with you, Jason, you have a recreation. You have a template now that you can report back to us so we can assimilate it.
Good. Have you sent us
into our
that template yet?
presentations.
Okay,
Okay?
We're gonna,
yeah,
So,
I'm gonna
yeah.
have the template,
good,
this template, at least match the masthead we
Great.
put together over here,
Good.
so it's consistent.
good.
But, give us another week, week and a half. We'll
Paul, I
have
know Jason's getting ready to leave. I'm
Yeah.
just going to give you a quick update on some stats that I've got. Bay Agent's got has hired a researcher, and that she's a statistician. And so we're really pulling stats up right now. She has pulled up the most current stats on elderly, and unfortunately, they're from these are from the 2019 census. They're a little different than what we've been using. It still appears to me that Lancaster and Northumberland County, we can still say, are the most elderly rural contiguous counties in America. That still exists. The rankings have changed a little bit. Northumberland County is now the 6th most elderly county in the United States on the 2019 figures, and Lancaster County is 15th. Matthews is 46, and Middlesex is 56. But anyway, Lancaster and Northumberland are still in the top 15 most elderly counties in America, and are the 2 most elderly rural contiguous counties in America. That still holds true.
No, can you send
I just sent it to you a minute. I just sent it to you. If you'll,
Because I'll incorporate some of
right,
that.
I just sent it to you a second ago. Good.
Is it fair to say, Don, that emergency services is one of the fastest growing line items in our budget over the last decade?
Yes,
Because that's what I've been saying.
yes.
I don't know who was talking, but I can't, sometimes I'm having difficulty hearing online.
I'm sorry, I had the mic away from me. I'm sorry, Dan. I apologize for that. What I was saying, I was asking Don affirmation on is it fair to say that emergency services is one of the fastest growing line items in the county budget over the last 10 years? And he said yes. Okay, so those are the major items that I wanted to cover today. Have we not covered anything that we need to?
I think we're good. Good job, Paul.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you guys for coming. I got some direction. Don, can the Board of Supervisors meeting in March?
31st.
The 31st. Okay, is that, could we have some time at the front of the agenda to give them this presentation?
Yeah,
And-
I can put you under presentations, right after the broadband authority. And,
Perfect.
and, you know, I think we can, the board can probably make a motion after your presentation to, direct the broadband authority to increase their scope like we talked about earlier.
Okay, and then also, I'm going to request that they publish this letter. And Susan, by that time, will be
We'll
with,
be ready with that.
yeah, with Mike. Mike, by the way, Mike Antonio was at one of these focus groups. And he came up to me and said, how can we help? And I said, I know how you can help, and he's volunteer. So he's
Great.
joined our volunteers now.
Good.
And he's willing to do this pro bono for us.
Paul, one other person.
I'd like to add something from earlier in the meeting if possible.
Sure.
Susan shared a video with me of the new group building in Hills Quarter, and that, I actually met with the gentleman and he showed me. Going back to, my input is, it's great for the school division to be trying to sell some stuff, and we're gonna continue and ramp that up, but we're still missing, like, the county selling ourselves. So, it's like separate entities are doing, is there a way to get a video for the county that includes, and the pamphlet, and how can we get that done? And Jason, this is probably more of a supervisor question, but is there anything in the budget that allows for that, for commercials in Richmond or flyers in Richmond, or, I mean, do we have anything to, I say Richmond only because it's an hour there drive from here, or Newport News, or, I like what Susan's doing, I like the help that I've been given, but I don't know that just individually the school division or the town is gonna sell what we need to get to turn this around.
So we need a promotional video for the county,
Yeah. And
kind of like Visit Virginia Beach or whatever it is.
Yeah, or
Virginia
the,
Lake.
you're seeing a great one right now for Currituck County.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something
on
like
TV.
that.
Yeah.
We need PR for our county.
Well, wouldn't that fall under the Economic Development Office when we get that established here soon?
it
Yes.
would, yeah, yeah.
I think all that could definitely fall under that, and
I mean, there's a whole PR aspect to all of this
Yeah. And that's why,
And-
that needs to
yeah,
get ramped up.
that's why.
The second thing I've been approached about that I just want to hit on again, I saw it on the easel, is there seems to be a great deal of interest about creating a rec program, a Parks and Rec program that actually manages athletics not only for young students or kids not tied to the school system, but also for adults. So I just want to throw that back out there again, because I've had 4 conversations since our last meeting about it, and folks that are willing to volunteer to help, so.
Yeah, oh, yeah. We did have a couple of focus group comments for people wanting to know if there was adult softball.
yeah, well, one thing we got to be conscious too of is the hiring process, because we've been down this route before and had difficulty in trying to find really good quality applicants as the town is. So this needs to be something that we're getting ahead of, in front of, and so we're not like finished our work here and then waiting to get somebody on board to start executing it. These things need to be really synergizing themselves together now, and so they're executing at the same time when, and even that person can be helping to deliver this to its finality as well, too.
Just, and this is for Jason and Don, and I'm asking this out of ignorance, you know, and I've got a lot of that. What is the history behind the county not having a Parks and Rec kind of arm?
The county had a Parks and Rec department at one time.
Okay.
And they disbanded it and started a healthier contribution to the YMCA,
Okay.
which took over a lot of the sports and
Programming
the
stuff.
programming that the Parks and Rec Department did. And that's kind of the path that we followed since that was done. And that was done, the county had a Parks and Rec Department in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and then around 2000, that went away and the contribution increased to the YMCA.
So,
I can
Makes
see
sense
where-
to me, because at that point, the aging out was happening, and the Y would have the appropriate programming, more adult, less child.
Yeah.
That would make a whole lot of sense.
Can I suggest something? And I'd be willing to do this, but more falls under Jason's committee, is to get the school system, the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, and the Youth League together. Those are our major providers. And talk about all these gaps that we have and see if they're willing to fill them and who wants to take control of looking at and maintain on the whole thing. I think we really need to do that because there are providers right now, and you go into a Parks and Rec. And I'm not believe me, I'm not opposed to it, Dan, but there may be a fair amount of money and organization to get that all moving, especially since we don't really have that many parks.
Well, I think at this point more, it can somewhat fall under the person that we hired to basically help in managing that's going on.
Right.
We have a lot of theses that are already working in place, but they're being just handed over to them and subjugated from the Board of Supervisors totally. We can have a little bit more management oversight in what goes on and what gaps can be filled when we have a person working on these things day to day that's not burdened by all the other administrative duties that required of, say, Don or the other staff.
Yeah. So would you mind if I gathered those groups together and had a meeting?
No, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to do that, and I'll report back next time.
I got to get ready to wrap up and leave here.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're all wrapped up, unless there's anything other discussion items.
Yep, good.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you
Bye,
all.
Dan.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to be calling you up with Lisa McLaughlin to schedule some time with you to get some potential folks to enter into a focus group.